Warner Wallace entirely fails to understand the burden of proof, which is hardly a surprise because, well, religion. Why do so many theists have such a problem comprehending what they do wrong? Let's take a look at that coming up next. I've looked at Warner Wallace in the past, and let's be honest, he's really not very impressive. I see lots of Christians talking about him, but clearly they're not paying much attention because this guy is a joke. He's a laundry list of theist failures all wrapped up in a bow. Today, he tries to tell us that atheists have a burden of proof while refusing to talk to atheists. Closed comments. But what else is new? But he doesn't understand much of anything, as I'll show. And this guy pretends to be an investigator. It's no wonder he's now an apologist. He sure isn't very good at it.
I often get asked this question, right? You Christians, you believe in something I can't see. You believe that God exists. Okay, that's kind of a preposterous claim, they would say. So if you're going to make that kind of crazy claim about a supernatural being that I don't see here with us today, well, then that burden of proof is on you to demonstrate why you think that invisible thing you're talking about actually exists.
And that's true. Anyone who makes a positive claim is responsible for backing that claim up. Now, because Wallace is a law guy, let's go that way and see if his claims stand up. According to the legal dictionary at law.com, burden of proof is defined as the requirement that a plaintiff, the party bringing a civil lawsuit, show by a preponderance of evidence or the weight of evidence that all the facts necessary to win a judgment are presented and are probably true. In a criminal trial, the burden of proof required of the prosecutor is to prove the guilt of the accused beyond a reasonable doubt, a much more difficult task. Notice this applies to the one bringing the case, the one prosecuting the case, the one making the claim. It does not apply to the defendant. They don't have to prove anything. It's why the legal system doesn't work in terms of guilty or innocent. It works with guilty or not guilty. The prosecution has to prove its side. The defense doesn't have to prove a thing. They just have to poke holes in the case of the prosecution. You'd think Wallace would know this, wouldn't you?
Well, okay, that can sometimes be a conversation stopper, right? Because it puts this entire evidential burden on us. We find ourselves in the next 30 minutes trying to make an evidential case for something, when in fact we both have a burden of proof.
You're wrong, at least for the overwhelming majority of atheists. And this is why so many apologists talk about atheists without ever talking to atheists. They do so to set up a straw man so they can just knock it down. They engage fallaciously, just like Wallace is going to do for the rest of this video. He has to misrepresent the position of the vast majority of atheists so he can reinforce in the minds of his religious audience that they've got it all right. That's all this is. It's a way to baldly rationalize an emotionally comforting response in the minds of people who are paying you. It's a scam.
Let me tell you what I mean by that. Anytime you walk into a crime scene, you're going to see pieces of evidence in the crime scene. I've been in crime scenes with my partners, for example, where I will go in that crime scene and say, wow, given what I see here, I think the best suspect for this is the husband. Oh, my partner could stand next to me and say, well, I disagree. I'm looking at the same pieces of evidence you are, but I think the best explanation is his daughter.
But that's not what's happening with religion. Religion makes claims about something that they think is really going on in the real world. They make claims about gods and about heavens or hells or whatever beliefs they happen to have. Atheists are not saying that they're wrong. They're saying, we don't believe you. We have not been convinced by your claims that what you are saying is defensibly true. It's why we ask for evidence for your claims, because you have to back up your statements or have your statements be rejected as irrational. I'm not saying that you're wrong necessarily. I'm saying I don't buy it. And this is exactly where Wallace goes so entirely wrong.
Okay. Well, both of us have a burden of proof now.
No, we don't. I'm not making any kind of a claim whatsoever. I'm waiting for you to prove your claim to my satisfaction before I accept your claim as valid. You haven't done so. You haven't even come close. You are the only one with a burden of proof. If you fail to meet your burden of proof, as all theists so far have, then I have no obligation at all to take anything you say seriously. In fact, I have a rational obligation to reject your claim as ridiculous, pending better information that may come along down the road. You have failed, and the whole reason this kind of nonsense keeps coming up is the religious don't like failing as blatantly obviously as they do. So they try to shift the burden of proof, a logical fallacy, to people who simply have no burden themselves, just so they can get around having to talk about it.
I've got to make a case for why I think the husband did it, and my partner's got to make a case for why he thinks the daughter did it.
Yeah, but that's not what's going on here. You are claiming that God did it. We're not making a claim that something else did. You want to assert that, but you're wrong. I don't know if you just don't know any better, or if you're just being blatantly dishonest, but after as many years debating the religious as I've been doing, I'm pretty sure it's the latter. You know better. You just don't care.
Something very similar happens when we're trying to describe the universe the way it is.
Except that's not what we're doing. Atheists, again, by and large, because I can't say that it never happens, but I pretty much never see it, we aren't trying to describe anything. We're not arguing for anything. We're just pointing out that the claims made by the religious don't stand up to a moment's critical scrutiny. And I don't care how that makes you feel. We are following the evidence, the objectively demonstrable, factually consistent evidence to whatever conclusion it most rationally leads to, and it simply doesn't lead to your conclusions. I don't care if that makes you happy or not. That's just the way it is.
We see the same features of the universe. We see that it has a beginning.
Do we? We know that in its current form, it had a beginning, but that doesn't mean that its current form just popped out of nothing. That's like saying a puppy had a beginning the second it was born, ignoring all of the things beyond that, things that led up to the current puppy and made it possible. This is a bald assertion on the part of the religious because it fits into their narrative. It simply isn't defensible.
That it appears fine-tuned.
It appears fine-tuned to who? Because it certainly doesn't to me. Fine-tuned in what way? The overwhelming majority of the universe sure isn't fine-tuned for human life. Even on our own planet, we can't live on most of it unaided. How is that fine-tuned?
Life comes into existence from non-life.
So? Because you actually don't believe that. You think some magic man in the sky poofed it into existence. You have absolutely no evidence of any kind that that's true. You need to do a lot better than that.
That the life that does emerge appears to be designed.
Says who? I mean, other than you. Because it certainly doesn't appear to be designed, whatever that even means. It looks like it evolved, which is what every single solitary shred of evidence we have points to. But remember, he's claiming that both atheists and theists are operating from these same agreed-upon features in the universe. I beg to differ.
that there are conscious beings in the universe who seem to be free agents who can make free decisions.
We have one single example of that, and we're just one insignificant species on a backwater planet in the ass end of the universe. Again, how does this prove anything about your imaginary friend? Provide evidence. You're the one making the claim, not us.
We sense these moral obligations in this universe that appear to be objective and transcendent.
Not hardly. You just pulled that straight out of your ass, Wallace. But that's really all he's doing throughout this video. It's why it's made for the religious, not for the skeptics. Because nothing he's saying is valid or defensible. He's full of crap, which is why, no surprise, his comments are disabled. He doesn't want us pointing out just how wrong he is.
And we even think there are things that are truly evil. Yet we need to have a standard of good by which we could judge something that's truly evil.
Nope, I don't agree. I don't think there's anything truly, quote-unquote, evil. Now, there are things that we can subjectively think of as evil, just as there are things that we can subjectively think of as good. But there's nothing that you can rationally define objectively that way. But again, he's just trying to project his Christian ideals onto the non-religious and pretend that we're in agreement. And he's simply wrong.
These are the features of the universe that both of us have to explain.
These aren't features that both of us even agree are real. In fact, the Christian who claims these features are real has to demonstrate that they are. But yeah, he won't do that. He can't. He just blindly believes. Any feature of the universe that I actually claim is real, I can explain and provide evidence for. Why is it that the only one who actually cares if what we accept is real are the atheists?
Both of us have to explain those. Now, as a theist, I need to be able to make a case for why I think God is the best explanation for all that stuff. But if you're not a theist, if you're an atheist, you have a burden of proof of showing me how your cause best, your suspect best explains this stuff. You think you can get that with just space, time, matter, physics, and chemistry? That burden's on you.
Except I don't have a suspect. Wallace is working from the presupposition that there's a creator, yet lacks any credible evidence to support that belief. We can work with space, time, matter, physics, and chemistry because those are the things that we can actually prove are real. Those are the things that science has no problem finding solutions with. Just because you don't like those solutions, just because you don't find those solutions emotionally comforting, that doesn't mean they aren't real.
I have a burden, and you have a burden.
And you're still wrong. Now, you notice that he spent his entire video jumping around to various unsupported ideas about what's actually being debated here. He can't just stick with one thing. Why? Because if we can nail him down, we can just nail him to a tree. He's just wrong. So he keeps shucking and jiving and moving around, because if he ever stops, he's dead. This is how apologetics works. Shift your claims, shift your definitions, shift your ideas, and never, ever, ever let the opposition get a word in edgewise. And you wonder why these people are so dishonest.
We both have a burden to support what we believe at the crime scene.
But this isn't a crime scene. It's a scientific laboratory. It isn't a contest between two competing ideas. It's a presentation. You have to prove yourself right. If I come up with an idea, then I have to prove myself right. Your ideas are not proven right just because my ideas are proven wrong, or vice versa. The success of your proposition rests on the strength of your evidence and nothing else. But the religious know they've got nothing. Therefore, they pretend that we have to prove them wrong, or they are automatically right. And it just doesn't work that way. I mean, how many religious debates have you been in where the theist, entirely failing to meet their burden of proof, demands that you have to prove them wrong? Most of them? Because they've got no clue what they're doing.
Don't let someone try to get you off the hook or get him off the hook by saying that there's no burden on that side. You're the only one who has a burden. No, we both have a burden, as it should be, because these are big claims about reality that have big consequences.
And with that wholly irrational way of thinking, it's no wonder the religious get it all wrong so often. I'm not making a claim about reality. It isn't me that's banging on your door to tell you the good news about science. It's all strictly put up or shut up, and the religious don't have anything to put up, and they sure the hell don't know how to shut up. So they just concoct these bizarre lies to tell themselves and their followers because they can't admit that their own bag of tricks is entirely empty, and then they hide from anyone else who would dare show them how wrong they are. And they think that this is somehow impressive. Really, what's wrong with these people?
Embrace your duty to make the case and help other people to see that they have an equal duty.
Either of those would be great if you were doing any of that, but come on, we all know you're not. You have a duty that you're shirking because you have no evidence, and therefore you're just insisting that other people who aren't making any positive claims, they have to prove you wrong when you've done nothing to prove yourself right. And for some reason, you think this is going to impress anyone. Why would it? You're just engaged in a sham. You're trying to distract people from realizing that your emperor is buck naked. But that makes you sad, so yeah, you won't do it because you're not honest. And that's the biggest problem with the religious that I see. They lack rational credibility. It's all about feels and never about facts. It's all about distractions and not about evidence. If you could prove your case, you would. You wouldn't make all these videos about why you just can't do it. You just do it. You're not fooling anyone, Wallace. You're just making yourself look like a dumbass. I don't think anyone is surprised at that either. Maybe, just maybe, but maybe you ought to do better. Give it a shot. It's pretty hard to do any worse.
Bum